Welcome back to WD-FM,
the official Walt Disney Family Museum podcast. We're your hosts, Bri Bertolacini, Content and Research Manager,
and Chris Mullen, Marketing and Editorial Specialist at the Walt Disney Family Museum.
Happy holidays, Chris. The museum is decorated for the season. It's such a magical time to be at the Walt Disney Family Museum. What have been some highlights for you?
Personally, going to see the Muppet Christmas Carol at the SF Symphony. But museum-wise, I always love how we decorate the museum store for the holidays. Also a big fan of every time we host Santa. This year, we had a couple of very successful in-person and virtual storytime programs that were a really big hit. What about you?
Yeah, that sounds so wonderful. The Muppets Christmas Carol is such a favorite. I know you're a super fan, so that must be so much fun. And meeting Santa, I love that he comes to visit every year. And also, in kind of in celebration of the season, every year we do set up the theater with a Christmas tree and a mantle, and it just looks so nice and cozy. So this year, I actually got to help decorate the tree for the first time. So if you do have a chance to see a program or a film screening in our theater through, the next couple of weeks, enjoy the festive atmosphere.
And something else to check out while you visit the museum this time of year is our Directing at Disney special exhibition on display now through March 2025. Get to know some of the lesser-known directors that brought to life some of the classic Disney films. This exhibition is free to view in our lower lobby and theater gallery.
Another new display to see is our Walt Disney Treasures pop-up artifact display. In celebration of our new book, Walt Disney Treasures, we are showcasing different objects featured inside the pages and presenting them in person. So the second installation in this series celebrates the friendship between Walt Disney and surrealist artist Salvador Dali. So we have on display a surrealist painting from Dali that hung in Walt's Palm Springs home, technically in his bathroom, and a copy of Macbeth that was inscribed by Dali and gifted to Walt.
And none of this will be news to folks that visited our Disney and Dali exhibition a number of years back, but just a little about the friendship between the two of them. After reading Dali's autobiography, The Secret Life of Salvador Dali, Walt sent his copy to the artist asking for not only his autograph, but also a suggestion of a collaboration with the Walt Disney Studios. World War II would put a joint effort between the two men on hold, but in 1945, Walt engaged Dali to design a surrealistic animated short segment to be a part of a package feature. The segment was called Destino, the Spanish word for destiny. Starting in January 1946, Dali spent time drawing, writing outlines and treatments, clarifying his ideas, and considering animation and live-action elements. Over time, however, it became more apparent that there were differences in the two men's approach to storytelling, and by 1948, work would cease on Destino. Despite the disappointing end of the Destino project during Walt's lifetime, the friendship between Walt and Dali endured through the coming decades. Walt's nephew Roy E. Disney spearheaded the completion of Destino, which was released in 2003.
The inscribed book has a pretty interesting story, and it still kind of baffles me a bit, but since the late 1930s, Walt had expressed interest in producing an animated version of Don Quixote. In Walt's personal library, this 1946 edition of William Shakespeare's Macbeth was found with an illustration by Dali, which Dali playfully signed with a drawing of Don Quixote. Accompanying the illustration, Dali wrote, "Oh, another time to read French." My favorite thing to do on this podcast. I'm actually just going to translate it, and I'm going to skip right over what it's written in French. Other than that, he signs it, "Bonjour, Dali." And so it's translated, "For my very dear friend, Walt Disney, good day." Unfortunately, Don Quixote was never realized.
Now, if you would like to test your knowledge about the French language or about some of the objects in our galleries, make sure to pick up our Treasure Trivia worksheet at our ticket desk. If you find all the answers, you can get a set of our treasure cards, trading cards featuring different objects in our Walt Disney Treasures book.
And if you have some little ones with you, we do offer a fun scavenger hunt to spot different items in the galleries. This is available as a worksheet that you can pick up at our ticket desk, or you can access it on our WD-FM app.
If you're looking to get creative at the Walt Disney Family Museum, look no further. We have quite a few offerings starting in the new year. We have free drop-in activities, the art playground for children ages 3 to 6. On various Fridays and Saturdays, we will be embracing Lunar New Year and the spring season and teaching simple art techniques. For older artists from age 7 to adult, join us for our drop-in artist studio. Exploring the world of animation, you can discover aspects of stop motion and specific film techniques.
We do have a new sip and sketch workshops for adults 21 and over. These workshops are a fun hands-on evening where adults can put their creativity in the spotlight, enjoying evening cocktails and learn step-by-step how to make their drawings truly come to life. Upcoming sip and sketches include learning how to paint a dreamy winter scene, sketching cartoons in love, paint whimsical flowers, and draw rubber hose characters.
If you're interested in learning animation techniques, join us for one of our Studio Series workshops. These workshops are 90-minute sessions that explore animation principles. Workshops include animate a director, animate a magical carriage, animate a puppet coming to life, animate growing and shrinking, animate a magic staff, animate a pop dance, and animate a fall. Workshops are available for both youth and adults, and some are offered virtually. Visit our calendar for more information.
If you're looking for a last-minute gift, consider giving the gift of a membership from the Walt Disney Family Museum. Members receive free entry to our galleries and exhibitions, discounts in our museum store, ticketed programs, talks, classes, and workshops, and access to member-only events, and just so much more. So learn more at waltdisney.org/membership for more information.
Since we're in the season of giving, Bri and I are going to put our clash aside for this episode. We both picked some special gifts throughout the galleries and wanted to share our favorites. Bri, what is one of your favorite gifts in the galleries?
So one gift that I really enjoy is the story of how Walt's valet box, made its way into our galleries. And so this box was actually gifted to our president and co-founder and Walt's namesake, Walter E.D. Miller, from his grandmother, Lillian Disney, just a few years after Walt's passing. And so you can actually find this valet box on display next to the bronze hat, another great gift. But Diane shared about this box saying, quote, "This box was always on Dad's dresser. In it, he kept little things, little odds and ends that had some sentimental value to him. Commemorative pins, a keychain, money clips, pencils, a drawing by his grandson, Christopher." So this is a less traditional type of gift, but it's more of a passing down and a gifting of an heirloom.
With a big anniversary happening this year, a gift that immediately comes to mind is the inscribed copy of Mary Poppins, which was gifted to Walt hot off the press in 1934 by publisher Raynal and Hitchcock. Though it's common to send books to film producers in hopes that they'll adapt them, this book came with a special inscription that reads, quote, "To Walt Disney, not another Mickey, but I think you should like our Mary, Eugene Raynal." This very book resided in the Disney home for many years, along with other copies, including a copy that belonged to Walt's daughter and our museum's co-founder, Diane. This book was a gift to Walt. Walt's film was a gift to audiences and his daughters. Mary was a gift for the Banks family. Lots of gifts here.
I love it. Well, for my next gift, this was one I actually hadn't realized was a gift until recently, and it's Walt's Hamilton watch that's on display. And so we actually have two of Walt's watches on display that you can see, and one is on the valet box. That's a gold watch, and then in our case featuring many of the gifts Walt gave his family is this Hamilton watch. So Lillian gave this Hamilton watch company timepiece to Walt as a Christmas present in 1934. On the back of the watch, it's inscribed "To Walt from Lily" with the date December 25th, 1934. Now, a little bit about the watch. It's a Langley design, and it's fashioned with 14 karat gold and was produced from 1930 to 1934, named for the early American aviation pioneer Samuel Langley. It was sold in 1934 for $90. So definitely was a big ticket item, a really great gift, Christmas gift from Lillian. Now, this design was advertised as, quote, "a distinguished design for the man of today." And what's interesting about this watch and why I personally went down this rabbit hole researching this watch for the Walt Disney Treasures book, the watch was actually originally fastened with a black pigskin band. And so I was finding photos of Walt wearing it with, this black band. And then the one we have in our galleries, it's a brown leather cuff. So it's kind of unique. So by the 1940s, Pigskin just kind of deteriorates a lot faster than cow's leather. And so Walt had to replace it, and he ended up replacing it with a brown leather cuff, which probably made it a lot easier to put on every day.
One of the many ways in which a book called Walt Disney Treasures can lead you down a treasure hunt. Well, for my next gift, what is a major film award if not a really prestigious gift? The next gift that I wanted to highlight is the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award, which is awarded periodically by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences at the Governor's Awards ceremonies to, quote, creative producers whose bodies of work reflect a consistently high quality of motion picture production, end quote. When accepting the Thalberg Award, Walt reportedly tearfully said, quote, I find myself speechless. I knew that there was something here tonight. This is way beyond my expectation. I've got a lot of thanking to do. First, for the little short subject award, which we're very proud of. My musicians for their music. It's going to be hard to get along with them now, I know. With a laugh break in there, I'm sure. Fantasia, in a way, I feel like I should have a medal for bravery or something. We all make our mistakes, I know, but it was an honest mistake. But this is too much. I'm well aware of the high ideals that this award symbolizes, and I sort of feel like I should rededicate myself to those ideals. I've been through a very trying year, the toughest year. I hope there's never another one like it. And coming after that year, I'd like to feel it's more than an award for past conscientious efforts, honest mistakes. I'd like to feel that it's sort of a vote of confidence for the future, and I want to thank the members of the Academy, my friends, everybody. Thank you, end quote. So the Thalberg Award was really a gift from the film industry to show Walt that he had in fact made it.
That is just so sweet. I don't know that I've completely read through that entire speech. And to kind of hear him talk about Fantasia as an honest mistake, that was just it's just such interesting ways to, like, in the moment, how he felt about how that film was received to the public, and to be able to receive this wonderful award is just very touching. Well, we do have quite a few of the jewelry and perfumes that Walt bought for Diane on display. In our 7th gallery, there's where Walt's miniatures are. We have a little display of some of the jewelry that Walt had gifted and some of the different, items there. Diane shared, quote, Dad's gifts to Sharon, Mother, and me were very special. He favored antique jewelry, things with history. He gave Sharon and me beautiful antique bracelets over the years. As we grew older and he got busier, he resorted to perfume, which would be under the tree in the most beautiful gift wrapping done in his office by Eunice, one of his 3 secretaries. These little bottles are precious survivors. Now, I wanted to highlight one of these perfumes. One in particular is Joy by John Pateau, which I recently found out was one of Jackie Kennedy's favorite perfumes. That kind of led me down another rabbit hole, and I was like, that is so interesting. We have this one on display, and it was Diane's. And the one that we have from Diane is actually an unopened bottle. And this perfume is actually considered to be one of the greatest floral perfumes ever created, according to Scent and Subversion by Barbara Herrmann. Now, released during the Great Depression, it was described at the time as, quote, the world's most expensive perfume. So this just reeked of luxury. So if you're curious, like me, about what this perfume smells like, the top notes are Bulgarian rose, lang lang and tuberose, middle notes of jasmine and May rose. Base notes are musk and sandalwood. So the more you know about some of the perfume Walt had gifted his daughters.
I'm going to pretend like I know what any of those notes smell like. I'm sure it smelled really great. One gift in the galleries, which always kind of caught my eye, thanks to our latest book, Walt Disney Treasures, which my co-host helped put together, we have more of the story behind this particular object. The object is a single cigar celebrating the birth of his youngest grandson. About this cigar, our co-founder, Diane Disney Miller, said, quote, Dad had 1 grandson and 3 granddaughters, loved them a lot, but really yearned for a namesake. When Walter was born, Dad rejoiced and quickly ordered these cigars in their cases to pass around, proclaiming, it's a grandson, Walter Elias Disney Miller, end quote. From Walt Disney Treasures, quote, Walt's valet box that was housed on his dresser held many treasures of the special moments from his life. This Partagas cigar announced the birth of Walt's grandson, Walter Elias Disney Miller. In 1961, Walt wrote to his sister Ruth, quote, I don't know if you had heard about the big news, the birth on Tuesday, November 14th of Walter Elias Disney Miller. Diane finally decided to name one of her sons for me, and I'm thrilled to have a male heir bearing my name, end quote. This Cuban Partagas celebratory cigar is notable because it would be the last year that Partagas cigars were produced in Cuba. Due to the Cuban Revolution, Partagas was controlled by the Cuban government, and the family that previously owned the company launched a competing cigar line under the Partagas name outside of Cuba. Disney illustrator and animator Sam McKim told Walter Miller, quote, "I remember your grandpa was so excited when you were born, he was handing out all these cigars," end quote. When Walter was around 10 years old, Lillian Disney presented him with a special keepsake, a box of cigars bearing the birth announcement. This is the only cigar that remains from that box.
There's some undertones there for sure.
Yeah, some undertones that you can smell. Maybe not quite like the perfume, but like a cigar, perhaps.
That's funny. Well, that was so fun kind of highlighting some of these really great gifts. And I kind of just wanted to do a quick kind of rapid round of some more, smaller gifts. So I did want to highlight the Went and Coon figures that Diane would gift Walt every year. He proudly displayed them in his office, where they still are today. You can actually purchase your very own Went and Coon figures in the museum store and maybe start the gifting tradition with one of your loved ones.
A museum-specific gift that I love to mention as a fun fact is that the castle that adorns our model of the Disneyland of Walt's imagination was a gift from Walt Disney Imagineering to the museum.
I love that, and I love the little Tinkerbell that's right on top. It's perfect in scale. Now, since these are just kind of fun gift stories, I'll share one that we don't have represented in our collection at all. There's these little Hummel figurines. This is always a very fun fact that I rarely get to tell, so seemed like the perfect place to put it. So Diane shared with journalist Pete Martin that her father enjoyed knowing the Tooth Fairy, and she was brought a Hummel figurine for each tooth. She said she only received 10 of them before starting to get money in exchange for her teeth as she got older. She did note that she did get more for her molars. They were worth more to the Tooth Fairy. It's just kind of one of the stories that if you're ever asked, what did the Tooth Fairy bring to the Disney children? Well, now you know.
Wow. Inflation from the Hummel figurines to just cold hard cash. Of course, I'm sure at a certain age, Diane would prefer the cash. Another great gift in our galleries is Chris Miller's saddle. A small leather saddle with a leaf and flower pattern, white stitching, and 3 leather thongs hanging from each side. It had light-colored leather on the seat, a woven rope cinch, wool lining, and a suede saddle blanket with orange yarn trim. About the saddle, Diane said, quote, "Dad's first grandchild, Christopher, was born in December of 1954. Disneyland was under construction at the time, and Owen and Dolly Pope were hired to acquire and train the horses and mules that the park would need to pull the horse cars and stagecoaches down Main Street. To be close to the horses, the Popes lived in a trailer on the studio's back lot and then at Disneyland. Dad would often visit them and the horses. Owen was a skilled saddle maker and made this miniature saddle as a gift for Dad's first grandchild. My husband Ron was in the Army and stationed at Fort Ord, and we were living in Pacific Grove, California. When Mom and Dad flew up to see their first grandson, Dad brought this little saddle with him," end quote.
That's just so precious, even though he could not use it as a newborn. I love the sentiment. Well, the idea of gifting is, I think, really well represented in our museum galleries. There are just so many objects on display that are either loaned or gifted from collectors to the museum to help us tell the story of Walt's life through a variety of historical objects. And one that I particularly love is the Griffith Park bench that you can sit on when you visit. It's not only a great place to sit and enjoy the view of the Golden Gate Bridge, but also reminisce about Walt sitting on a Griffith Park bench himself and dreaming of Disneyland. Griffith Park was replacing their benches and gifted one of them to Diane Disney Miller, and another was gifted to Disneyland.
And what a good bench it is. When I'm taking folks through the galleries, sometimes you have to encourage them, like, no, you can sit there. It's okay. It is a living artifact, and maybe you'll think up the next Disneyland when you sit on it. One last gift that I want to bring up is a portrait by Mexican muralist Diego Rivera. An original work by Rivera made as a gift to Diane. We don't have the portrait itself in our collection, but we do have a high-quality reproduction on display. Diego Rivera theorized that future historians would, quote, find that Mickey Mouse was one of the genuine heroes of American art in the first half of the 20th century, end quote. And I think he was right about that.
Yes, definitely. And thank you so much, Chris. That wraps up the last episode of the year. And what a gift it has been. Thanks for tuning in to WD-FM, the official Walt Disney Family Museum podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on all social channels at WDF Museum for all the latest updates.
Never look a gift horse in the mouth and keep looking forward. Bye.
Bye.